Hi everyone, Stefan here. Welcome to the stream. It's Wednesday, and tonight I think I'm gonna go back to a character, like I said on Twitter. I'm gonna make Rambo, John Jay, famous character. Obviously, I really like this guy. Brings fond memories from summer of 1982. Was I guess this film caught everyone by surprise. I guess Stallone was well known at the time for the Rocky films, and that's why they were able to make Rambo. But I don't think a lot of people expected much from Rambo. Critics didn't like it too much at the time, like many movies that ended up being very successful, actually, from a critical standpoint and from just from the audience. Some of them even turned into cult movies. So it's always interesting to see how those things evolve. So yeah, Rambo is based on a novel by a guy called I can't remember what was his name. It was a 1972 novel, and actually when they wanted to try and make the film, the only reason why they ended up making the movie was because of Sylvester Stallone. Really, it's not unusual in Hollywood that a scriptwriter or a bunch of people, producers, will try to push for a film to studios, and they will be turned down by every single studio until finally some well-known star is attached to the project. So it was no different for this one. There's been many examples of that, but First Blood was certainly one. David Marr was the guy. I just checked it. David Marr wrote this in 1972. So it took close to 10 years. 10 years to get the movie finally out, which is really not that long considering how long Hollywood can take sometimes to just pick up on a project. They will auction a lot of stuff, option a lot of scripts, a lot of novels now more than ever. Sometimes just to be sure that no one else, if anything, no other studio will make them. Just to make sure they get it, just in case. But for the most part, most of them never get made. So 10 years is not that long. And I guess that guy Moore was, that author was lucky that Stallone wrote, read the book and liked it and wanted to make a movie out of it. But interestingly, if you read the book, it was actually quite different from what Rambo was in the film. It was called the same, John Rambo in the book. But Rambo in the book suffered like really traumatic PTSD, and actually it was way more dangerous. It was than Rambo ends up in the film. He kills a bunch of people that are after him, and the ending is actually very dark. So it's quite a different tone that Hollywood did in the 80s. But I guess the 80s were a different time. It was not the 70s anymore. 70s were very quite depressed era. A lot of there were a lot of movies like Midnight Cowboy, all the William Friedkin movies, and all many films were actually a deliverance. There was a tone in the 70s that was quite dark and depressed. The 80s were it was almost like that decade turned its back to the previous decade and wanted to be more fun. It's usually the case, it's a cycle, like a sinus wave, going back to more optimistic to more pessimistic times. And so it's not surprising that, to me at least, that Rambo ended up being more of an entertainment action movie than a reflection on PTSD and Vietnam War. Even though it was, in a sense, I don't think it lost the whole vibe or the whole tone of the original story, but definitely made it a way more casual, and they made certainly Rambo a more friendlier character than he was in the book. In the book, he was not so likable. I mean, you could like him, you could empathize for him, but he was not really a guy that you could think was salvageable. So it's it's an interesting thing. They actually, Kirk Douglas was cast originally as the Colonel Trotman instead of Richard Crenna. Richard Crenna was very much at the bottom of the barrel. It's funny because I think they went through every badass, older guy that they could think of at the time before finally settling on Richard Crenna, poor guy. There's like Lee Marvin was approached. I think Robert Duvall was approached. The guy from Apocalypse Now that we made a couple of days ago, like this guy who Luton Kilgore from Apocalypse Now, that actor, and eventually Kirk Douglas was actually cast for the role, but but at the last minute he bailed out because he didn't like the script. He didn't like the ending. He wanted the ending to be faithful to the original book. And if you know the story a little bit of Kirk Douglas, and specifically what happened on Spartacus with Stanley Kubrick, Kirk Douglas was very, very involved actor. He was always a producer on his movies. He was a major star in Hollywood, and there was not, you couldn't say no to him. Basically, if he was involved on a film, whatever the part was, you could be sure that he had to deal with his requirements, and that he would put his hands into the scripts. That's the kind of guy he was. He was creative, and he didn't want just to follow rules. He wanted to have a say on everything that was in the movie. So he wanted a faithful ending to the actual novel. Sorry, but they producers didn't like that. Stallone didn't want that. Interestingly, Stallone, and he said that later, he didn't want Rambo to die because Rambo dies in the film, in the book. But Stallone didn't want Rambo to die in the film because I think he was, in the back of his head, he was already thinking of doing a sequel eventually if it was successful. So there was a little bit of a sort of a practical business side to him already. Definitely, I mean, Stallone, if you know his story a little bit, he's definitely a businessman. So he knows what he's doing, and he knew that this could be potentially the start of a franchise. So killing your main character for a franchise is not really the smartest decision you can make. But Kirk Douglas was very much an artist. He didn't care about money, Hollywood, all of that. He wanted films to be made the way he thought they had to be made, and it didn't matter if he killed characters. He had some major problems, major fights with Stanley Kubrick, as you can imagine. Kubrick was the same. He wouldn't take advice from anyone. And Kubrick and Douglas, those two big, strong personalities, creative characters, fighting each other on Spartacus was a big nightmare. But on Rambo, what happens is that Kirk Douglas said, "Well, you make your movie the way you want, and that's it." And I guess he probably didn't feel like going against Stallone, who was very much an up and coming superstar. So he just paid from the movie, and he didn't have the main part anyway. So they also wanted to cast different people for the main role of Rambo. At some point, they wanted to have Steve McQueen, but they thought he was too old at the time to play a veteran from the Vietnam War. and then they had Al Pacino, which is I think is a very interesting cast when you think of it. I mean, you know, your first reaction would be, wow, he's a small dude, doesn't look like a, you know, a Green Beret, like this sort of Jewish badass guy. But when you think of Scarface, I mean, he can be pretty scary if he wants. You know, he definitely has what he doesn't have with the physique. He makes up for with the character and the personality. So I think he would have been an interesting character. But he bailed out too. He turned down the part because he also wanted the character to be closer to the book, and he wanted the character to be definitely crazier. That's his stance. He said the character needs to be more frightening, less friendly, more scary, and I think it suits Al Pacino when you think of the kind of parts that he's playing. So he wanted to play with his skills, you know, that character. So they didn't go for him, and they ended up settling for Stallone. And back to Colin Trotman. So they asked Lee Marvin to. Lee Marvin would have been a pretty good choice. Definitely had this, you know, old, you know, colonel's demeanor and face. You know, this big square jaw. But it didn't work out. I don't remember the exact reasons. And eventually they asked Richard Crenna to take on the part very last minute after Kirk Douglas bailed out, and which is interesting because Trotman was very much the part that defined Richard Crenna's career later on. He was praised for this role, and it sort of made his late career. So it's interesting that he was definitely not the choice that the producers wanted, even though he pulled it off very well. So yeah, that's our guy, John J. Rambo. So I already gathered a bunch of references, and mainly from Rambo 2, because I think I want to make his you know, a jungle fighting persona in Pixel. There's two sides of him that I really like. I'll show you the other one, and I kind of did them in a very small, skinny style in Pixel. Let's see. I'll just the one that I really like for him, but it's not necessarily what people think of him right off the bat, is the drifter look. I really like this look. I think it's awesome. It really fits the character so well. I mean, there's so much history that you can read in this. Even in the beginning, you can see how much more hopeful, you know, he's about to see his last friend. The last one that survived Vietnam with him from his company, just to learn that this guy died from cancer. So the film starts on a sort of a semi-hopeful note, and really everything goes downhill from there. But I like this side of him, the drifter. It's the old sort of classic. You can feel that he's still in the military outfit. He's not out of the war in his head. He's still wearing the Green Beret clothes, and and at the same time he's got the big bag on his shoulder. So that tells you that he's just always a nomadic character, always traveling. So I think it's a pretty touching side of him. I really like this John Rambo, but I don't think it's necessarily when people think of Rambo, they think of that. They think of, I think, to me, the guy holding the huge machine gun, and with the bandana and the tank top and all that sort of stuff, and the muscles, and that's what I think Rambo is for most people, which is certainly what it is in the movies most of the time. This is more like a sort of an introductory character to him, but I think it's a good one still. So I think I maybe end up making him. I'll show you the the small ones that I did, and I did both versions for him when I was doing this very small one, the drifter look with the jeans and the and the parka, and then the Rambo 2 one with the black tank top and the red bandana, and also the little green gem that he gets from his contact, that girl, the Vietnamese girl, in Rambo 2. And after she dies, he takes her a necklace, because she says that it's what keeps what brings her good luck. So he takes that on her body. So I may end up doing, because in the game I think what would be fun is to have whether it's random or whether it's event based or skill based, I don't know, but I felt like it would be nice to have when it's relevant, 2 versions of a character, and sometimes you get version A, the drifter, and sometimes because you've done something specific, you've unlocked version B and you get the bow and arrow and tanked up warfare guy. So that could be fun. I think I'm thinking of doing that maybe, but for now I think we're gonna stick to our good old badass there from First Blood Part 2, because the movie is called First Blood because the book was called First Blood, and everyone says Rambo and Rambo 2. And it's interesting because the movies, they were not called Rambo or Rambo 2. They were called First Blood and First Blood Part 2, and it's only with Rambo 3 that decided to shift entirely. But when the first movie came out, it was called First Blood. That was it. There's no other title. And then everyone called the movie Rambo. It was like, did you see Rambo? You should go see Rambo. And then the producers scratched their heads and they were like, well, obviously got the wrong title there. No one cares about First Blood, which was a better title to me, but still, so they were like, okay. So in the second film, what they did is that they called it Rambo First Blood Part 2. So they kind of like, split the difference there. They said like, okay, we're gonna stick to our First Blood because that's the title of our movie. It's First Blood Part 2, but we're gonna call this Rambo first, so that people can choose whatever they want. And then I think by Rambo 3, the First Blood was completely gone. Let's see. I'm pretty sure that they ditched it at that point. Let's see. Yeah, so see, that's the poster for the third movie. No mention of First Blood. I think at that point they completely killed the First Blood mention, which it's fine. But I think it's the second one is more interesting. The fact that they wanted to stick to their guns, but people would be like, no, it's Rambo. That's how you're gonna call it. So they were like, okay, it's gonna be Rambo 3, 4, 5, and whatever. Okay. So we're gonna get into it. Get rid of those guys. So is there someone that I can take to stop with this guy? The question is, should I? So it's interesting because I didn't remember that, but for some reason, so the poster, he has I have to watch the movie again. He has the red bandana, but in the film, sometimes he has the black bandana, and sometimes the red. So I'm pretty sure that I don't think it's this. You see, this is the black one. So I'm pretty sure it's not a continuity issue. I'm pretty sure there's some story there that I need to dig. And it might be that it might just be that see this, let me see, this promotional picture, black. Well, here, to be fair, it looks like he has the haircut from Rocky 3. So I think this was kind of BS picture that they made quickly because they needed something, because it was about the same time that they were filming Rocky. So this guy looks like Rocky to me, you know. But then they were like, okay, we need quickly a picture from Rambo. Can you just hold this gun for us and put the you know, the tank top, and we'll be fine. But this looks like this doesn't look like the. I mean, look at the haircut and look at the. It almost looks like that scene when he's running with Apollo Creed on the beach, you know. So I'm not sure what's going on there. But I found some pictures where in Rambo 2, pictures that they took on the set, where he has the definitely a black bandana. So I'm a little bit confused here. I'm gonna try to find one real quick. Bit confused, but we're gonna go for red because I think it's gonna be a better read in Pixel anyway, and he has and I know he has the red one in Rambo 2 for sure. So regardless if he has a black one at some point, doesn't matter to us as long as. Oh, see, there you go. So this is confusing. This is black. Yeah, definitely not red there. So I'm a bit, and this is when they're on the extraction point, waiting for the helicopter. So I don't know. Does he change it during the movie, or this is, or is it because it's dirty, or I'm not sure. Yeah, something there that I'm not quite certain I get, but I have to watch that movie again. If someone knows, feel free to chime in the chat. I mean, it's kind of a super gnarly conversation. There is no way this is for Rambo. I mean, come on, look at this. This, yes. That, I don't think so. Oh well. Yes, we'll never know. Rambo 2 was actually directed. So first one was directed by Ted Kotcheff, and the second Rambo was directed by George Pankosmatos, which went into. Oh, see, there you go. See, this is definitely a genuine set picture from Rambo 2 with an extra, and this is a black bandana. There's just no doubt about it. I mean, look at it. So very confusing here. I'm not sure. See, this is black. There's no red in this, so I'm not quite sure. I guess he changes it at some point during the film. Probably. I mean, it has to be that. And the guy got the picture of his life right there. Look at this. Anyway, so I guess that's all we need. We'll do red bandana, black tank top, this weapon. So this weapon too is weird to me. I mean, I'm not a you know, firearms specialist by all means, but like to me this looks like one of those things they call the RPG, you know, rocket propelled grenades or something. But usually this is on a very specific weapon. It's not mounted on a machine gun or something. And this looks like some kind of M60 or like one of those big mounted machine gun. So this is very confusing. See, this is the machine gun. So this looks like this, but then for some reason on top of it, they have mounted a rocket, you know, an RPG. So I don't. Does this thing even exist? That's so weird to me. And I guess it probably does. I mean, they wouldn't make an entire poster for a movie with a fake, you know, fake gun. So very strange. So the question is, do we do the bow guy or do we do the, I think this is probably more Rambo. I mean, the bow is a little bit more gimmicky. I feel like the bow is using the bow, you know, a couple of times in the film, but is it really the one thing that, I don't know. I mean, it's certainly very specific to him, but I feel like this is more of a classic Rambo stance with machine gun and the belt of, you know, bullets. I think I'm gonna go for that, and we'll see. So let's go. Let's stop now. We've talked quite a bit about the film. I think I'm gonna take I could take so I'm gonna take this reference for the upper body, or even this, good. Legs apart, like a nice strong stance. So I think maybe I could take, I guess it doesn't really matter. We'll see as we go. I'm gonna just copy T 800 over. So it's interesting that I chose this specific day to do Rambo, because just completely randomly looking for Stallone and reading his Twitter, it turns out that I think today or tomorrow or something is the first day of filming on Rambo 5. Crazy as it is. They're gonna make a new Rambo. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but you know, it's the way it is. So as usual, we'll go very dirty, very bad. Bear with me. It's gonna be pretty bad, but we're just gonna try and define the very basics, building blocks. Oops. Oh. This might be, oh, this might be easier for just the basic pause. So in the book, the it's pretty sad story. In the book, they I hope I'm not gonna spoil it for people if they want to read it afterwards. But if you think you're gonna read the book, you may want to mute the stream for a few minutes, because I'm gonna tell you how the book ends. So be warm, okay? Give you a couple of seconds if you don't want to hear this. Okay, so so in the book, the poor Rambo ends up killing a bunch of people that are after him, and then what's his name? Teasel, the cop, the sheriff, actually manages to hit Rambo in the chest, and Rambo flees in the mountains, and Teasel is after him. And at that point, it's a battle, it's a fight to the death between the two of them. And Rambo feels like, you know, he doesn't really have anything to live for anymore. He's, you know, he's been through too much, and he feels so lost that he figures, I'm gonna go in a blaze, you know, and at least I'll have the honorable death of a fighter. I want to be killed in combat. So then he sort of lures Teasel into the mountains to have a final one-on-one with him, and hopefully getting killed by him. But it doesn't happen the way he thinks, and because he actually fires on Teasel, and Teasel is too you know, wounded to return fire. So then Rambo thinks, well, shit, now, you know, I'm wounded, and too wounded to do anything about Teasel. Teasel's gonna die, and I'm gonna be arrested, you know. But he has some dynamite on him, so he wants to use to detonate the explosives and to die, you know, he wants to commit suicide by with the dynamite. But he can't do that either because he's too weak to light the fuse. So already he's out of options at this point, and that's when Colonel Trotman, of all people, kills him, shoots him in the head with a shotgun, and then yeah, so that's pretty dark, you know. And he goes to Teasel, and Teasel is dying, and before he dies, he says, "I killed Rambo." And Teasel, he has a moment, you know, of reflection before he dies, a moment of sympathy, actually, of empathy for Rambo, and he dies too. So yeah, that's the ending of First Blood, the book. Pretty sad, this story. But you know, it's funny because I remember clearly this movie when I went to see it, thinking, well, it's gonna be, you know, based on the poster. I was thinking I'm gonna see some kind of commando movie, you know, or you know, or Predator or something like a guy, you know, a guy in the jungle decimating hundreds and thousands of, you know, Viet Cong, whatever, which and I think it was certainly sold that way, you know, to the public. And I was not too keen on the idea. I was like, oh, you know, it's fine, but you know, I was young, so I didn't care. But I certainly didn't imagine that it was going to have any depth to it. So when I saw the movie, I was actually quite touched by it. You know, I was surprised. There's a more depth to it than I had anticipated, and certainly, the character of Rambo is way more sympathetic than I had imagined. I felt for this guy, and I was like, you know, I think I'm gonna have to separate this arm a bit from, change the builds a bit, because I'm not sure this tank top thing is gonna read the way I want. Let's see. So just so you guys know, I'm under the weather today. I don't really feel very well, so this may impact the time it takes for me to get anything. I hope I'm not gonna have to end the stream short, but it could happen. Just so you know, it could happen because I really don't feel well. I'm kind of feverish, and It's pretty difficult for me to stay focused at the moment. So I'll do my best, okay? But don't hold it against me if I have to end the stream, please. Okay, so I don't want his arm to look too big, you know, because I feel like not necessarily want the characters look like plain caricatures, you know. I think I'd like them to look like sort of respectful parodies, you know, or something. I don't know how to express this, but they still look like what they were, you know, at the time. And when you think of the difference between the 80s and the 70s, I think if you look at some of the films that were made too, I mean, there's been a lot of films made about the Vietnam War in general. Some of them had a very, very, very special, take, very different. At some point in my life, I was obsessed with Vietnam, with the Vietnam War, and I wanted to see all the movies that had been done about it. So I saw quite a bunch, and some of them, they really made a strong impression on me. Not necessarily the most well known, but for instance, off the top of my head comes Birdie. Birdie was a 1984 film. Definitely not unlike it. I mean, in a way, it was a film from the 80s, but in another way, I think it was very much more of a film that could have been done in the 70s. But that was because of Alan Parker, who was directing it. And Alan Parker, he was such a special director. He's such a special guy. He's made all these movies that are really resonated with me. Very dark, very very sort of eerie movies, you know, with strange tones and I remember, so he did Birdie. So Alan Parker, just to give you an idea, he did, for instance, he did The Wall, the musical, you know, part musical, based on the album from Pink Floyd. It's really absolutely genius movie with a lot of animation in it. That was done partly by one of the guys who made the animated sequences on all the Monty Python stuff, weirdly enough. But definitely not a comedy. Anything but a comedy. Very dark film. But very, very special. He also did films like Midnight Express for about this guy who real story about Billy Hayes, who was captured at the airport going back from Turkey to the U.S. and he had some ashes on him, and he got busted at the airport and ended up spending something like 8 years in a Turkish jail or something. It's pretty harrowing story. And it was at the time, I can't remember the name of the actor who did who was Billy Hayes. Name will come back. Poor guy. I think he died from AIDS, unfortunately. but I'll find the actor for you. And also Alan Parker, he did films like Mississippi Burning. He did another musical with Madonna, based on the life of Evita Peron. He did what else? And he did this this film about Vietnam. It's not really about Vietnam. I guess it is about Vietnam War, but it is very different. And it's called Birdie. And Matthew Modine and Nick Cage were in it. And so it's the story about this young guy who's passionate about birds, like he's obsessed with them to a point where, you know, people think he's a bit strange, you know, if not a bit crazy. And him and his best friend is more of a jock, you know, is Nick Cage, and he's, you know, he likes partying and girls and all that stuff. But he took under his wing this kid who's, you know, a little bit fragile and it's kind of so different. But for some reason they, you know, they found in each other something that they like, and they become best friends. And they both drafted to Vietnam, and at that point, I mean, before they're drafted, you know, the character of the guy who's obsessed with birds, I can't remember his name. You know, he's to the point in his sort of obsession where, you know, he stands on the edge of his bed, naked, like he's a bird, you know, on his perch, and he's a very strange guy. And then they get drafted to Vietnam, and it's a very short sequence to Vietnam. It's very shocking, where you see a napalm drop or something, and the whole forest catches on fire. And this poor guy, the birdie guy, he's in there, and he sees all these beautiful birds. Those, you know, because it's in Vietnam, those beautiful exotic birds like parrots, and they all kind of like, you know, flying away from the flames and the inferno, and he screams, and to him that's the breaking point, you know. And that's it. That's all you see about Vietnam. But that right there gives you it's all you need to understand the amount of psychological trauma that those guys felt, you know, everyone in their own specific way. And so then the film continues on into the military hospital. That's where they're sent, you know, for injuries, and that's when they meet again. His former friend Nick Cage finds his buddy over there, and he's completely catatonic. He's in a state where, you know, he's gone, you know, he doesn't talk to anyone. He's completely he's mostly in this sort of fetal position all the time in a corner of the room, and no one can access to him, and he's gone, you know, for everyone. And I don't remember exactly what happens, but I think they have a certain deadline after which they basically need to intern the guy for good, you know, to say, well, that's it, he's crazy, and then they would lock him up for pretty much forever, you know. And then this friend of his, Nick Cage, he's determined to make him talk, you know, to make him come back, to tell those guys, I'm not crazy, you know. And so it's a very, very sad and kind of a very difficult scene after scene where he's trying to break through, you know, the trauma to reach his friend and to have him, you know, talk again and say, I'm not crazy, don't send me to the nut house, you know. And the end is, there's one scene that is true genius from absolutely genius from Alan Parker. I don't know if he came up with that or if it's a scriptwriter, but whoever came up with that, I think did nothing short of a brilliant job. You have to see this movie, and I won't tell you the end because I think it would be a very, very damaging for the movie if I was gonna spoil the ending. So I'll let you guys watch it. Birdie, 1984, from Alan Parker. If you get your hands on it, it should be on Netflix at some point. You have to watch this. It's a brilliant film, very touching story. But I can't spoil the ending. So when I think of Vietnam War movies, I think of some of those. There were very. Oh, I forget that those pants they have the kind of like collar, and then you get the army boot, So it's more like it. I'm not really good tonight. Oof, struggle a lot. Sorry about that, guys. I think I'm gonna have to pretend is because this part of the tank top is torn up, but it doesn't read. If I connect the arm and the body, it's not gonna look like, it's gonna look weird. So I think I'm gonna keep a thread of the tank top. We'll see how it goes, just to suggest that it's been damaged. But this tank top doesn't feel right. Nothing feels right to me in this character so far, so just so you guys know. We'll make it work eventually, hopefully. It sounds weird. Another weird and interesting film about the effect that the Vietnam War had on soldiers when there was Jacob's Ladder. I think you guys ought to see this. Bit of a warning though, that's not for the faint of heart. Definitely some very disturbing stuff going on. Very strange film and quite disturbing. But if you're into the sort of psychologic horror, I think you're in for a treat with this one. Definitely. It was if I remember, it was a tall actor, very tall guy. He was in the Massacre proxy from the Coen brothers. Let's think. I'm gonna find it. What's the name? Tim Robbins. Tim Robbins was in Jacob's Ladder. Yeah, quite disturbing too. And of course, there's been Full Metal Jacket from Stanley Kubrick, Platoon from what was it? Oliver Stone, I think, made Platoon. Oliver Stone was himself a Vietnam veteran, so he knows very well what he's talking about. There's been one with Michael J. Fox that I can't remember the title, but it centered around the abuse that was done during the Vietnam War by soldiers, on civilian populations and mostly women. So this one is a pretty tough watch too. A very different, not the usual part for. Definitely a different, a strange part for Michael J. Fox, but I think he did pretty good job in it. I'm just stopping for a second. I'm just trying to think, what is it that I'm doing completely wrong for the last hmm. No. Should be pretty straightforward, but for some reason, I think it's just because I'm a bit sick and I can't really get anything right. I'm just hot and cold and sweaty and ugh. So not that I'm making an excuse, but I mean I kind of make excuses, but it's fine. Okay. What's going on, Rambo John Jay? Why don't you want to be a bit nicer to me, please? I have to say, I would have been curious to see a version of Rambo with Al Pacino. He would have been, I think that would have been interesting. Certainly a very different Rambo. Can you imagine Rambo saying, "Come say hello to my little friend"? That would have been certainly a very different Rambo. But why not, you know? I think when an actor really did a good job with a part, it's hard to picture anyone else in the role. To me, that's often the sign of a good match, you know, because you can't really picture anyone else. Like Indiana Jones, can you picture anyone else but Harrison Ford in the portraying Indiana Jones? And actually, it was very close that Tom Selleck could have been he could have been Indiana Jones. You know, he was the first choice. He was George Lucas' first choice, and he was actually on board with the idea. The only reason why he didn't he didn't take the part is because he was under contract to for Magnum PI at the time, and so he had to turn down. he was bound by contract to do more episodes of Magnum PI, so he couldn't get free in time to. But if he hadn't been under contract with Magnum PI at the time, we would have had Tom Selleck as Indiana Jones. Can you imagine? I mean, why not? To me, that seems like a really big of a stretch. I can't. I mean, it takes quite a bit of imagination to try and make this work. But it's true that when you watch Magnum PI, I mean, Tom Selleck Magnum definitely has some character, some really interesting, fun. He's got this sort of confident, fun personality to him. So it's not that far from Indiana Jones, really. So it's not completely out of the realm of possibilities. But I'm glad it was Harrison Ford. Lucas didn't want Harrison Ford. No one wanted Harrison Ford because at the time he was a complete unknown. I mean, he was not that he was an unknown, because he was Han Solo from Star Wars, but that's all he was. He was Han Solo, So Lucas was like, "Oh, what again? This Han Solo guy as my Indiana Jones?" I don't think so. He wasn't too keen on the idea. But I think they did some screen tests, and I think Harrison Ford tested quite well, and they figured, okay, we'll give him a shot. Looks like they did. They made the right call there. This is not going very well. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, you can see for yourself anyway, so it's not like I have to. We'll make it work. Hopefully. Rambo, come on. Don't be that guy. Don't let us down. You need to be badass. You need to be cool for the game. He's already in another game with plenty of well-known character. The Broforce game. Have you seen this? On this, I talked about this game a little bit last time, I think, and it's actually quite fun what they did with it. But I think their depictions of the characters are definitely more caricatural than I would like to do personally. It's just different, So, by the way, I don't know if you guys don't care about that, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. Now I'm 43 followers, I think, and obviously this is nothing, but I'm still very thankful to anyone who followed, because first of all, they decided that was worth just following, which is already a good thing, and I'm pretty grateful. But also, if you know about the Twitch rules and systems in place, they have this thing called affiliate, And when you're affiliate, before you had just you know, regular streamer, nothing, and then you could go on to a partner, but it was quite hard to get the partnership. And now they've added the affiliate level that you can get under certain conditions, um, and so one of the conditions is to get 50 followers. So with 43, I'm not that far off from the requirements. So that's kind of cool, you know. Pretty happy about that. And you have to have a certain number of hours of streaming per some number of days in a month or something. But I've already got those requirements. So now I'm to a certain. Definitely the follower count is pretty crucial. So thanks anyone who's been following. Press that little heart button because that's gonna help me eventually. You get a few perks with the partnership, with the affiliate. You can have the bits, you know, that sort of stuff, but that's not really super important to me at the moment. I mean, it's so small. I don't. It's not like I'm gonna make really money out of streaming, but that's not the point. But you also get some other things. You can get some emotes and stuff like that for people, so it's kind of cool. Oh, I'll never get this guy. Tempted to start from scratch. It would be weird, but sometimes you have to do the hard thing. It's gonna be a problem to have the weapon against it, because usually I'll make the weapon black, you know, but black on black, not too friendly. So then I'll have to do the same thing here as some kind of a reflection or something to a few the light catching the gun in order for it to read against the it's gonna be tricky. I don't really like that pose. I'll keep trying, you know. It's the only way. You know what's funny though is I'm thinking of something. I'm thinking that the tank top that he has in the film is actually very different. It's actually more open. But that picture that I found a little earlier with the guy with the extra on set. So I wonder if I should look into this a bit more. Hope I can find it again. Yeah, there. It's very open. See how different this is from that. I mean, look at if you just look at how thick this spot is. I mean, look at this. It's very different actually. So I wonder if I should do more. Maybe I should try to do something like this more. It could be. Let's try a version real quick where we open it a lot more. Maybe that's the way to go, you know. And here, I could show some. Let me try to real quick to suggest some muscle mass. Yeah, maybe this will be a little better actually. I think I'm gonna like this better. So and that arm could be in shadow. That will help separate this arm against the chest there. Could be a good trick there that we need for just to be able to read everything. These ends, I think. And then we can have a little bit it catches the light. It's simple for now. We'll see after. Let me do this bandana real quick. I think we ought to do this for fun. Gonna go fairly dark red because it looks better on him. But the big needs to have the big hair from the time, you know. Not too much, but okay, that's a bit more like it. It's funny how a few pixels can already give some personality to someone you know very well. Does he have two? Yeah, okay, two. That's good. It's better for us. A bit more dynamic with two of them. Okay, so this is getting a bit, just getting somewhere slowly. Wow, this was not, it came easy. Yeah, I'm not out of the woods yet by far, but at least slowly getting somewhere. But now I have a headache on top of everything, so it's beautiful. Fantastic. We'll have the bullets, sure. It's still boots from our friend here. Where are you, Kilgore? Where are you, Kilgore? There. Will you lend your boots to Rambo? Uh-oh. Don't look right for some reason. Maybe a bit small or something. get those. Oh, come on. Flip. Okay, so that's not too bad. We're gonna use this for now and see later if we need to adjust this bit. For this kind of pants, I like the big, you know, there's just like those big side pockets. I'm gonna try this real quick. If we can get it right. Oh, you know what we need to, the knife. Does he have a knife? He's got the big knife, you know, remember? The big hunting knife. And then the idiot at the police station, at the precinct, when he gets arrested in the first film, he asks him, what do you hunt with this? Elephants? Ugh. He's such an idiot. This guy was really the most despicable character of the entire Rambo franchise, I think. Remember the guy with the mustache that falls from the helicopter in the first one? This guy was such an asshole. He's way worse than I mean, Teasel, the sheriff. You know, he's you know, he's not the most friendly character, but at least you can sort of understand where he comes from. You know, he's like, because he doesn't know Rambo. He doesn't know if it's gonna be one of those, you know, troublemakers, or it certainly looks like, you know, a guy who's drifting, and you know, so if it's a quiet little town and it's like, oh, it's gonna be trouble, might as well just get him on his way. And it certainly goes about the wrong way of doing this, but anyway, I can sort of understand where it comes from a little bit, you know. And he's got this sort of misplaced sense of pride, about doing his job and protecting the city, and especially when in those conversations with Trotman, and he's like, or try, you know, Trotman is like, well, you should, you know, you should let other people get him, and then the other guy is like, well, you know, Teasel is like, we have our job to do here, just like your guys in the special forces. And Trotman is like, well, in the special forces, we teach our men to stay alive. That was a good line. But it's like, I can understand where Teasel comes from. He's not a complete dick. But that other dude with the mustache is just a brute, you know. He's just an idiot. He really is. His only goal is to, you can tell he's taking a lot of pleasure in torturing Rambo. So he got it coming, you know. I was quite glad that he fell, and he fell to his death. This idiot, he can't even stay on the helicopter. That was, even though he's been warned multiple times by the other guy, the pilot, that it's very unstable. Ugh. And it's funny because I remember not liking Trotman. Actually, I didn't really like. I don't think I even like him today. I think Trotman is a weird one. I think he's a bit of a. I feel like he never really stands up for Rambo, you know, like when Rambo is trapped into the mine, he doesn't really mean, I guess it doesn't have jurisdiction to do anything and prevent the cop from doing what he has to do, but it doesn't do a lot for Rambo. It doesn't try to help him quite a bit, and at the very end he gets him to surrender, and he's like, you know, I'll help you out and all that kind of stuff. But then in Rambo 2, poor Rambo is in this horrible working camp, you know, this prison, and then the first thing Trotman says is, well, sorry, you know, I couldn't visit, but you know, I was busy, whatever. And then anyway, I hope you know that I did everything I could to prevent you from going to prison, you know. And I'm like, I think it's a little bit of bullshit, personally. But you know, and Rambo, I think it's kind of sad because I feel like Rambo, he never really realizes that Trotman is out for himself most of the time. Even when in Rambo 3 he goes after Trotman to save him, I'm like, dude, I think you have like, you should remember what that Trotman was never the best, you know, for you, you know. And actually, I think it's interesting that in the oh, I was gonna spoil the book, so I won't do it because I told you guys earlier that I was gonna let you turn off the. So I won't say. But anyway, the book tells something about Trotman too. Yeah, this part of the arm. Ugh. What am I doing? I don't think I'm gonna try and suggest the scars. You know, he's all scarred from the torture that he was inflicted on in the Vietnam prison camps, but might be a little tricky, honestly, to render. So I think I'm just gonna pass on this. We'll see. The very end, maybe we'll try a little quickie. I mean. I really don't like the shape of the tank top. Is something that it's very square there, and then all of a sudden, boom, boom, you know. But when you look at where is this picture? You know, it's flowing a lot more. Like it's more natural. So I don't like what I've done here. I think maybe I ought to have the tank top kind of like doing this sort of rolling back onto, but it's such a small area that I don't really have a lot of space for that to convey this, you know. I wish I had one more. I'll put it like this. It looks fat. Now I can't have that one more line of pixels, I think, because this makes him look just straight up fat, you know. That's the last thing we want for Rambo. We'll keep this like this for now. But here, maybe there's a way to give it this. You know what it is? I think maybe I just need to do this to move around it. It's possible. Maybe here. Okay, let's try something a little different. Let's just try to go this way. It's like boom, boom. Instead of boom, boom, right? Like instead of a Y shape. Because if you think of him there's kind of this, torso bend there. So it would make sense that the tank top follows those lines too. Like right, this to this, rather than tank top doing this and then that. And you can see there, see, kind of follows the body. I think that's the problem. Let's try this. Then it means that I have to cover a little bit more there. I kind of missed see a little bit of a chest. But the fact is that you don't see a chest there, right? And I think it shows you something. Okay, this is better. I think this is better. Let's think. Yeah, I think this works better. Mm-hmm. And also Trotman, to come back to Trotman. When they're in the helicopter on the extraction, the Rambo, he has all the prisoners and he's got a couple of them and he brings them back and they're at the extraction point. The helicopter comes down and in the guy in charge, he decides that it's not worth it, doesn't want any trouble, so he decides to abandon Rambo. And Trotman is he is in the helicopter at that point during the extraction, and he's like, "Oh, you bastard," and so on. He's like, he's pissed because they abandoned Rambo, but then a guy pulls a gun on him and I don't know, Trotman is like, oh well, shit, too bad, sorry, Rambo. But he doesn't do a lot. He doesn't put his life on the line, for Rambo. Always bothered me. It's like, dude, are you just gonna let them do that without fighting a bit more? I don't know. I thought it was a bit. I didn't like it so much. So I have my beef with Conan Trotman. But I guess that's the interesting part about that character. You know, he's not all black or white. Rambo certainly is a lot more. He's a simpler character. The Trotman, he has his dark side. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Yeah, the fact that I'm sick, I can definitely feel it right now more than ever. I'm very indecisive. Go back and forth and back and forth, but I'm not. I don't really know what I'm doing. I don't have a clear picture in view. It's a shame. I've done a Conan, but I think I'm gonna probably redo this guy or change him in a way because he ended up looking too big compared to other characters. He was more in that sort of caricatural realm that I was telling you about, guys. I think this is more in line with, you know, he's buff, but he's not like ridiculously oversized. Though I think I could take off some of those pixels there. It doesn't need to be. So I think that's the line that I want to draw. Not being too crazy, you know. And the problem is that this leaves a lot less pixels to play with lighting and, you know, shading in general. I should have a bit of shoulder there somewhere. It could be a good thing. I'm tempted to stop the stream because I feel so bad, but at the same time, I hate not. I hate stopping at a point where I don't I'm not happy with what I've done. You know, it's just not a very good feeling. So I feel like I need to just push through just a little bit more. Just a bit more. I feel like maybe we'll be in better shape to start at least a decent foundation to finish this guy on Friday, or maybe tomorrow offline. I don't know, depending on how I feel. Something I mentioned, I think, every stream, but I know you guys are not always there. Is that if you guys have a trick for me, or you see something obvious, you're like, oh man, if only, like, you're screaming behind your monitor, you're like, why isn't he shortening that forearm, or why can't he see that the pose is wrong in that regard, and he just has to do this and it'll be much better. Then by all means, let me know. I certainly won't be offended by any sort of advice. On the contrary, I'm glad to, if I can get some help. Because I can't see everything. Sometimes when you work, the more you work on something, the less you actually see it for what it is, and I think people can have a really good insights, because they see it in a different way, a more objective way. When you're working on it, you're just so you don't reflect on it, you don't take the time to do what's right. You're just kind of like churning through it without really thinking. I should probably have. I think I should have the how did we call that? What is it, that thing that they have to to hold the arrows, you know. Should I have this? So just a bunch of arrows in there. See, where is that on his back? And I have to look for a proper reference for it, but I wonder if it's worth having, since he doesn't have the gun. Might be a bit weird, you know. I think it might be a bit weird. Yeah, not sure. I'm gonna have to put the bullets there. Just gonna suggest them quick. It's pretty important to have that, I think so. Just gonna put this on a separate layer because I know how much of a pain this is gonna be to try and get this with just a few pixels. Nothing will look right. Yeah, this one was gonna take some. Gonna have to be very clever with that. Not sure what it's gonna be. Maybe something like that. Then we're gonna have to shade them a bit. Maybe something like that. Absolutely a bit to sell the character. I don't think I want to go too complex because now I'm gonna think we need to desat that quite a bit. A bit more green too. something like this. Should be fine. Okay, let me compare to whatever this was. Yeah. So they're having a much more complex, you know, loop everywhere. Kind of wraps around his wrist, but I don't think we're gonna go there. I mean, I could have one more. I guess I could probably do a bit of that and then suggest that it's coming back down here somewhere. Let's see. I'm done. Do a little bit of that. I think it wouldn't necessarily hurt. It's a bit weird, but we'll see. I think when I get the hand right and the full weapon, then at some point, at this point, I can maybe move this around, you know, depending. So, but for now, I think we're gonna keep this. I'm gonna keep it on a separate layer. I can't quite commit right now to this because I need more information about this gun and everything. Wow, hold on. Keep it simple for now. This is a very complex thing. I'm not too sure if I can understand any of what's going on there. So I don't know if I want to suggest a little bit of something coming off, like he's holding a stock there. This is quite iconic, so probably need to suggest this. And then some random detail. It's going to be difficult to get anything right, but let's see. I want to suggest a bit of complexity, you know, because those weapons are quite complicated. This keeps going actually quite quite far. Execute 24. Thank you for the follow, my friend. Thank you very much. Appreciate. Just what I needed right now, you know, because I was about to give up on this guy and say, ugh, I'm not feeling it. I'm too tired, too sick. So you gave me a boost there. Thank you very much. Appreciate a lot. That's 44 now, unless someone dropped out. It's gonna be 44 followers. So you're actually doing a really massive effort for getting me to affiliate, you know. So I appreciate quite a bit. Thank you again. Yeah, we're gonna push the stock of the gun quite far. I think it makes the gun look a little more heavy and long, and I don't know if this makes a lot of sense, but I don't think it hurts. I think we're gonna do this. So it's sort of slowly kind of a little bit looking like Rambo, but geez, this guy didn't come easy, that's for sure. I thought I was. It's funny, depending on which character you have a preconceived ideas, and I thought this guy was going to be pretty easy actually, because you know he's got big muscles and lots of different masses, black against skin, arm against. So I thought that was going to be, you know, very iconic head with a bandana. So I thought that was going to be easy, but for some reason wasn't. You know, just struggled more than I wish I had. But I guess, you know, that's part of it. I think his legs, they seem a little skinny compared to the mass of him. So I think we're gonna have to give him stronger thighs there to hold his weight. Makes more sense, I think. What else could we do? So I think at this point we're gonna start comparing size. Oops, shall we bring the belt? I just want to compare size a little bit, and you know, overall mass, see if it feels right. It definitely feels really big compared to everyone else. Like, this kind of bothers me just a little bit, because even, you know, the T800 feels pretty slim compared to him. I got carried away here a bit with the muscles. I may have to. I mean, it's fun. It's not really a bad thing, but like I said, I kind of want to avoid getting too caricatural. So I think he doesn't really fit with everyone else, because he's just. I mean, she's pretty thick too, but most people, they're more or less in the realm of semi-realistic proportions. So I think he's a bit too buff to my taste. I don't know what you guys think. I think the size, waistline, all of this kind of makes sense. I don't think that his waistline is about here, which is about where everyone else is, including Indy. He's a bit shorter, but that doesn't bother me, because he's kind of a little bit more crouched. So I think that's fine. But his upper body is definitely very heavy. So I think we ought to maybe just thin this a little bit, 1 pixel here and there. I'm still gonna keep him on a separate layer. I just want to make sure that I'm not gonna lose everything, because I mean, I kind of like him right now where he is. It's just that I think he's too big. So I'm just gonna try and see if I can just shave a little bit of the craziness muscles, and see if it's, you know, we can still make him look okay. Hopefully. mean, I think it needs to be a lot, you know. Just a little something. This might also his. You know, still muscular and big, but not as. He looks a little bit bloated there. You know, he looks like one of those guys, you know, who have a little bit too much water when they're doing bodybuilding, and they don't, because he look, you know, he's fit. You know, he doesn't look like he's got too much. It looks like it's muscle. You know, doesn't have a lot of water or fat. It's fairly lean, so I don't want him to look like he's bloated, you know. So I think this is better for him. Yeah, I mean, it's Rambo, right? He's a Green Beret, and he's a tough guy and everything, but he's not like huge. Like for some reason I don't see him as huge as Arnold. You know, in Predator or what's the other movie? Commando. You know, Arnold is really big. Stallone is more of a strong man. You know, like action hero, not like a giant. You know, bodybuilder. I mean, I don't say this in a sort of disparaging way. You know, on the contrary, I think he looks great. You know, but in his own space. You know, it's more like who could I compare him to? Like at the time when a guy like Jean-Claude Van Damme, you know, is kind of a little bit leaner, but very, you know, very strong, very muscular, but not a huge mass. Or who else? Guy like Jason Statham, maybe. I don't know. Like he's not The Rock, you know, or Arnold. Those guys are like 200, what, 250 pounds, 280 pounds, 6 foot 7 or something. It's just crazy big guys. I don't think, to me, I don't think Rambo falls in that category. He's more like human size, but just very fit, very trained and strong. Mm. Okay, so this is probably a bit better. I mean, it's still big compared to everyone else, but I think it might be a bit less. We'll bring him over. See, it seems. Oh, what am I doing? Did I get the wrong guy? Oh yeah. Hold on. Sorry. That I think I copied him over. So maybe I don't know what I did there. Hold on, I'm getting confused with the layers. Let's go back a few before I moved everything. Okay. So that was before, and now he's a bit smaller. So let's bring him. Let's see. It's got the same head as Ben-Hur. It's interesting. Complete coincidence, but yeah. Exactly the same head. So he's bigger than Terminator, which is a bit of a problem, but let me see, compared to, how does he look compared to Indy? Indy has the jacket and everything. I think they could go even less big on arms, honestly. I think I could. I'm gonna try it, you know. Doesn't work, it doesn't work. We'll go back. I'm gonna keep one more version and then we'll try and get even less. A bit tricky, but hi, hello, Execute. How are you, man? Thanks for the follow again. Welcome here. Feel free to chime in, talk about anything you want, whether movies, games, anything you feel like, or the character or what you see. So good. We're gonna try to go one less pixel. I mean, at some point he's gonna be, you know, it's that critical size where every pixel matters. No pun intended, but they sure do. Is it the first time you watched the stream, Execute? Oh, no worries, man. I'm from France, so your English is perfectly fine. I'm pretty sure mine is not much better than yours. We're all from different places here. Um, how much time did it take to do all that? I guess, I mean, I haven't counted really, but on average, since I stream, I know because of the length of the stream, I know how much time it takes roughly to make one character. and I think on average it takes about 3 hours to make one guy. On average, some of them longer, 4 or 5 hours. Some of them they come into, but I'd say probably 3 hours on average to make a character. So it's easy enough to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 20, 21, 22, 29. Let's say 30 multiplied by 3 hours. What is it? 90 hours, roughly 90 hours to do all those guys. And it's probably more than that, honestly, because I think 3 hours is kind of a conservative estimate. I think it's probably more around 3 an hour, and 3 and 30 minutes, maybe 4. I don't know. I think environments like all those little ties, they come a little faster. 2.5 hours on average, maybe. But yeah, those guys, the little guys that I did before that, I wanted to try different things, and I made all those little characters, same movie characters more or less, but very, very small, super minimalistic. And so those they came, faster, obviously, maybe an hour or 2 hours per character, which is still a long time considering how few pixels there are. But surprisingly, they still take quite some time, because you have a lot of choices to make too. Yeah, it takes some time, and I mean that's what it is. I wish I could go faster, but and I guess eventually you get better at things. You go a little faster, and also the thing that the more I make characters, the more I have like heads with hat already done, pants, shoes, different body parts that I can sort of reuse a little bit. So I don't necessarily start, like for instance here I stole the boots from Kilgore and just slapped them onto Rambo, and that works well. So I'm not gonna bother changing them just for the sake of changing them, because if they work like this, if they're the same boots, then that's probably fine. But so it goes a bit. I think it'll go faster and faster as I have more people, but there's still, I mean, there's still an incompressible amount of time that you have to put into this. It's just what it is. Yeah, so I would say about that time so far. And I have this idea for this game. I want to make this game that has all those references and parodies of famous movie characters. So eventually I want to make maybe 120 of them. So you can imagine it's going to take a long time to get this done, for sure. Long time. But that's okay. I'm ready to try and do everything I can, to make it work. Making it on stream actually helped me quite a bit, because sometimes you're a little bit lazy at night, because I have a day job, and you've worked during the regular hours, and you come back home, and last thing you want to do is go back on the computer and work some more. But I've noticed that since I'm streaming, it actually forces me to maintain a schedule and be there for people. And so I think it's actually a good thing for me to stream. If anything, just for that, I think it's a good thing. Do you do art yourself? Oh, what, this arm is not going well. really like this arm. So I didn't first, right? So it's interesting now to go back to the first version. Look how much thinner I got. What happened there? Rambo, what did you do? A diet. Jesus. Look at this. Boom. Oh. Maybe the intermediate version was better. Let's see. No, I still think he was too big. But this is not quite right either. I think I messed up something. Especially here. I think he needs to go outside a little bit more. It feels a little small now. Maybe it's a bit better like this. Kind of a compromise. I don't like this word compromise. It's not a compromise. It's more like the right, you know, the right amount of change. Hopefully. I wonder what they're gonna do with Rambo 5. I mean, to be fair, I was not a big fan of the latest one they did. Thought I wasn't sure what was going on there. It's very, particularly that scene where he mows down an entire battalion with a mounted 50 cal, and just it's just, and it keeps on going and going, and he rips off heads and limbs, and it was just a weird scene. I didn't get it. I was like, what the hell is going on? That's not a Rambo I know. What happened there? You know, where does he get all that anger from? I mean, I get it. It's not always been easy for him, but Jesus Christ, dude, chill out. It was crazy, this scene. It was so brutal. And it was well done for what it was, but it was shocking. But I just didn't understand what the shock value was had to do with anything at that point in the story. It was so bizarre. I guess I'd have to watch it again. See, yeah, maybe I missed something, but I certainly didn't quite like it. I can hardly remember what the movie was about, actually, which is really not a good sign. I didn't quite like Rambo 3 either. I thought at that point it started to lose it. I think Rambo 2 at least, like a Rambo 2 to me was too Rambo, was Aliens was too Alien, if that makes sense. You know, Alien was this sort of like this very atmospheric, incredibly tense movie. You barely ever see the alien. It's it's such a ride, you know. It's so different and unique and really well crafted and subtle. And then Cameron, and it's interesting because Cameron did Aliens, but Cameron also drafted the first one of the scripts for Rambo 2, which is funny because then you realize how much of the same he was in his approach in Rambo 2 compared to Rambo from Alien to Aliens, you know. Cameron, he turned everything into a crazy action flick, you know. I mean, not that it was necessarily a bad thing for Aliens. I think Aliens is very much a movie, a film from the. I'm gonna push this this leg back into shadow a bit more. I mean, Rambo 2 was. Aliens was a fun ride for sure. But I mean, he's very different, and I think for good reason. You know, it's very much a movie from the 80s. You know, but Rambo 2, when you think of it, it was kind of the same thing. You know, they turned Rambo into this war machine that. But Rambo had so much more. There was a real character arc to Rambo, the first one, First Blood. There was a lot more going on, and it took a long time before we get to the action and all that stuff. But Rambo 2, they went straight in. You know, they didn't bother with any of that stuff. It's funny because in the script, the original script that Cameron had done for Rambo, he had given a sort of a techie sidekick to Rambo, you know, like the guy, a bit like, I guess he was inspired by maybe by Metal Gear Solid or something, you know, like Snake. He has what's her name? She's always giving him the instructions like on the communicator, you know, and he talks to her and she tells him, "No, that's not. It's Otacon. It's Otacon, right? That's the name of the guy. The guy, the techie guy." Gives him all the tricks like you need to do this in order to bypass the security, da da da. And so I guess it's funny because Cameron, he wanted in his script, he had Rambo just like Snake had a techie sidekick to give him instructions, you know, off the field to tell him what to do, which I cannot imagine how silly that would have been, you know, like. I mean, who knows? Maybe it would have worked, but I just can't imagine this working. Like, to me, Rambo is all about him against the world. I mean, that was the whole point of Rambo First Blood. That was certainly still the case in Rambo First Blood Part 2. I mean, they have the girl, but she gets killed pretty quickly. And she's at least she's from the area, you know, so that makes sense. But yeah, but having a sidekick, really, like a tech guy, I don't know about that. All due respect to James Cameron, I don't know. Who knows? You know, we'll never know. But yeah, no. So it's funny because they wanted to do Rambo 5. It was called no Rambo. Yeah, 5, The Last Stand. It was called Rambo: The Last Stand, and then Stallone said that he was retiring the character. He wouldn't do it ever. No more Rambo. And then boom, out of the blue, he's like, "Oh, let's do Rambo 5 again," which different movie, different producers, but they're still making Rambo 5. So I'm a bit confused there. I don't know what happened. Maybe they convinced him, gave him a bit fact check, or he just. I can't imagine this guy would be motivated by money though at this point in his career. So maybe they just, you know, maybe he read a script that inspired him into getting back into the role. Sometimes that happens, you know. Just need the right story to inspire the actor. It's very well possible. I don't know the backstory. I'll be curious though to see what they do with it. I hope they go back to something a little bit more, I don't know, just a bit more a human, you know, like from a human perspective, from Rambo's, something less of a action. It's unlikely, honestly, at this point. Where Hollywood is headed, I doubt that they're gonna be something too reflective, but who knows? I think there would be some value into this finish, and I kind of want them to kill Rambo, you know. I think he deserves to die on the battlefield in a very honorable way, you know. That would be a fit ending. But killing a big money makers, not a Hollywood thing. I mean, you know, I understand when you sit on a multi-billion-dollar money printing machine, do you really want to turn your back on this? I mean, studios are just like anyone else, you know, they're trying to make a profit. Sometimes to the detriment, I think, of what's good for the character or for the film, but it's kind of a long debate. Could guess we could talk about that all night and still not come up with a viable, you know, consensus on this. Where does creativity stops, where money starts, and all that sort of stuff? I'm not sure myself. Like as artists, you know, it's always easy to say, well, of course you're gonna make whatever is good for the art, you know. Who cares about the money? But then when you really think of it, what makes you, you know, able to make those movies is the money. So it's kind of a chicken and egg thing there. A lot of directors are struggling with this. Oh wow. Seems like I've spent an enormous amount of time just playing with these muscles, which are not even looking very good. So let's see. Let's see now. In this goddamn tank top, I can't get this shape right. No, this was best and anything. Let's quickly check on size again. I think it's time. Yeah, I think this is more acceptable now. This is a bit more in line. You know, he's still gonna be like the big guy, but I mean, when you think of Rambo, what do you think of? You think of muscles. You know, you think of you know, testosterone, and I mean that's his signature thing, right? He's always wearing the tank top and showing off the big guns. So it's kind of something that you have to convey, I think, in this guy. Can't really go too shy on this. Like I said, I want him to look like a caricature, but at the same time, I still want him to look like he can hold his ground, you know. Yeah, I think that's probably all right. Okay, I'm going to commit to this. Delete all the other layers. I'm going to commit to this. And one thing I want to try really quickly is change the skin tone on him, because I mean, he's got this tan, especially in Rambo 2, or is it the Jungle? They really went for the big, you know, the very Kathy tan, you know, because he's in the jungle and everything. So I think I could try and have him change his skin tones a little bit. Let's see what it does. Just selecting all the skin. I think I got everything. Just gonna quickly check. Gives me the mask. See, everything that's red is masked out, so I just take the skin. Okay, now like I said, Control J or Command J on the Macintosh for me. Well, if you look at this layer, let's say this is Rambo, right? So that's Rambo. If I do Control J with this selection on, then creates another layer on top with just what I selected. So now I have the skin exactly at the same position as it was above that layer on a separate layer. So now I can play with the skin alone. I can do, you know, I can do like, let's say super dark, you know, way too dark, and then I could mix them both by just changing the opacity of that layer. See, as I change the opacity, then I can go sort of in between, you know. Sometimes it's a good way when you're not sure if you're gonna get the right amount right away or the right value, then you can play this way. But we're gonna try to get as good as we can just with it. So bring the levels, so go a little darker, but I need to contrast more, otherwise we're gonna lose too much contrast. And I need to look at everyone else just to make sure that we're in line, you know. It's mainly the really dark tones that I want to bring darker, but I still want to keep the range quite high so that his lighter portion of the skin don't go too deep down too much, you know. You said wow, execute. Wow, as in what? Wow to what? I'm curious. Pretty tricky to get that right. Can go a little darker. Oh wow, it's how you change. Yeah, so that's, I don't know if you're familiar with Photoshop, but this is the levels. And so the way it works is, I'll go back and reset everything to explain. So this is your output. So basically, so this represents the amount of pixels that you have of one value. So this is 0. So this is your dark. If you can imagine black, complete pitch black, this is where pitch black sits in an image. This is where pure white sits, right? And this is all the values in between. So every value, every color here, if I take the picker, so this will tell you what should, yeah, so this will tell you the value where this sits. So the way it works is basically, if you want more pixels, like this shows you the amount of pixels there is of that value. So you can see that this is probably that skin right there, because there's a lot of pixels on that color, you know. So if you want to change the color of things, then you can say, well, I want to compress the range like this. So now all the pixels that were here, they will come down to here. So basically it means that everything will go brighter. If you do the opposite, you're going to contrast the image, but everything will go darker, because you're going to say, now I want that amount of pixels to be that dark, you know. And this is the output. This is the opposite. This is a clipping. So basically you're saying, now I don't want any pixels to go above that value. So what it does, effectively clips everything, right? So all the pixels that are brighter, so you can tell here, if I do this, you know, at some point skin starts to go down because all those medium pixels, they start to be clipped down. And then here it's the opposite. You're going to clip the low, so then everything's going to go low contrast and lighter. All the dark values are going to go lighter and lighter and lighter. So that's a good way to you know, to quickly get what you want. So basically this, when you're doing this will always contrast more. It's like when you're doing higher contrast, and this will always decontrast, make everything less contrasted. So here what I want is the midtones, which is probably that skin. I want a little darker, so I'm going to bring it over there, right? But I don't want too much. I still want the higher tones to be a bit bright. So I'm going to bring, if I bring this back, you know, and then here I can go darker for those dark tones. If it affects too much this area, I can in turn I can move this area to bring back the midtones. Contrast, bring up, this gets darker because it's the dark tones, but this eventually affects that, because you see, if I do this, this arrow moves as well. So I want to bring back this arrow, and then I bring back the lighter tones. That's more or less how you do it. You can do that with the curves as well. It's a similar, very similar thing, except the curves are a little more complicated to use, but they're more precise. But for what I need, I don't really need to go crazy. So I'll try to find something that looks a little bit more tan. And the convenient thing is this little tick here, preview. You can click, you see, and you can see the difference. So not too much change, so I can go a little darker there. I feel like he's getting a little too. So now he starts to have more of a tan. Yeah, sure, you're welcome. You're welcome. Don't hesitate to, you can, at any moment, that goes for everyone, obviously. You guys can stop me and ask me if you feel like it's something you'd like me to explain more. I never know if I go too fast over things or too slow, because sometimes I may just, you know, spend a long time explaining something that you guys know already. So then if you want me to move on, it's the same, just tell me. So you see we're getting something a bit more interesting there. Before, after. But the thing that with color, the way it works is if you contrast things like we've done here, you tend to saturate. So if you don't want to saturate, if you contrast a lot, you tend to go too saturated. So now he's looking quite yellow, you know, too orange, like a fake tan. So in order to get rid of that, what I have to do is image adjustment, and then I'll go to Hue Saturation, and now I can just bring down the saturation a bit, you see. So this preserves the contrast and all the sort of light tones and values that I had, but I kill a little bit of saturation, so it looks a little less like fake skin, you know. So from here to maybe there. Preview again, see, lots of color. A little bit too cartoony to there, a bit more like skin. And so now that's where we were and that's where we are, you know. It's a subtle change, but and then we can go one more time if we feel like it's not enough. We can go a little darker yet. I feel like it could go a little I think it's a little too yellow in the skin. So one of the things you can do is image adjustment, same thing, hue saturation. This is hue. So hue is basically where it sits on the color wheel. So if I change the hue, you see I change the color of the skin. This is saturation. No saturation goes to gray. High saturations go to super colorful. And lightness goes to dark to light. White to black. So I'm not going to change lightness, no saturation, but here I'm interested in hue because I feel like it's a little too yellow. So if I move this a little bit, see, it's more yellow now. If I go this direction, it goes a little more red, and that feels more in line with this kind of color, you know, from here right to there. It's subtle, but it's a bit more, it feels a bit more, a bit better to him. So now again, from where we were, very sort of pale skin to more of a tan. I still think we need to bring a bit more saturation in here. So in that case, I'm gonna pick just the highlights and just color just this. So I feel like this color is not quite right. If you look at it, all those colors, they have a nice saturation to them, but this one is a little too dull. So I'm just gonna grab this color and I'm just gonna try and saturate this bit. Not too much, just a bit. This. So before, after, and go a little bit more red maybe. So now I look at him before, after. That feels a bit better. This went a bit crazy, so I'm gonna take this color and mix. It's a little less intense in the shadow there. And I think overall, still want to go a little lighter, a little more contrast even. Oops. Skin is always difficult to get the right amount. I'm going fast now because I want to move on, so I'm not gonna explain every step, but just a bit there. Now we can collapse and commit to this. So there. What else? Yeah, Photoshop is really good for that. That's why if you guys know about the different software that people use, there's a Sprite that I've tried on a few streams, and it's certainly a very good software for a certain number of reasons for just pixel art. But it's not very good with color management like Photoshop is, and that's why I tend to stick with Photoshop at the moment. But it's possible that at some point I will switch to Sprite if I have to animate mainly, because I think it's very good for animation. But for color, I'm so much. I think it's so much easier to work color in Photoshop. So I tend to do this. To do all that stuff in Photoshop. I'm gonna do this. I need a better reference for that, I think. So this, I'm still perplexed about this. Like, how come the RPG sits on the what looks like a machine gun. I don't get this. In fact, it's even more weird because if you look at some reference, Rambo 2, there are some pictures of him holding the RPG somewhere. Where was that? There. And that I understand, right? That's an RPG from what I know. But I don't see how this, which to me is the grenade part of the RPG, would be attached to what looks like a machine gun. I just don't get it. I'm baffled by this. Because it's kind of cool shape, you know. I mean, I'm tempted to do this, you know, to do the kind of thing. You know, but would that make any sense though? Like, I wonder if someone knows about guns and stuff. I would be very happy to get your knowledge on this, because this doesn't sit with me. Yes, you're right. Yeah, absolutely. This is Bill Kilgore from Apocalypse Now. This was, you know, the guy who says, "I love the smell of napalm in the morning." That's him. Yeah, well done. Yeah. Do you want to play and try and recognize everyone? You can go over everyone and you can type in the chat everyone you recognize if you want. What about this guy? Who do you think it is? If someone else wants to join in, feel free. You guys can tell me, because I need to know if people can actually recognize the characters. You know, I'm not even sure that they're all very identifiable. It's hard. Okay. Well, we'll move on and we'll come back and I'll tell you if you can't find it. Or if someone can find, no one can find it, I'll come back. What about him? This I think you will know. Give you a few seconds. There's a delay with the stream, so yep, Terminator for sure. This is probably a little harder for you, depending on, I don't know how old you are. I don't want you to tell us, but I think this is an older movie, so it's more like for old guys like me. So you may not know this one, even though it's a great film that you have to watch if you've never seen it. I really recommend it. This was Charlton Heston, if you know the name of the actor. Well, 17 years, yeah, so you probably don't know, but that's fine. You know, there's always time. You have all your life to learn about those films and watch them, because you know there were good films made before 2000 for you maybe. You know, there are plenty of them. So this is Ben-Hur. It's a William Wyler movie from 1959, so it's a very old movie, but there's a very famous chariot race in it with horses that you have to watch. So this is very good film. Ben-Hur, Ben-Hur. This you probably don't know either. This is a movie from 1984. This is very good too. This is one of my favorite movies ever, like ever. This you know. I think you know this guy. You probably know this guy. Maybe this guy too. But hey, you recognize Apocalypse Now, and Apocalypse Now was made in 1979. So there you go. See, yeah, look, well done. Those two guys, you know, they're from the same movie, obviously. That's an old movie to 1968. No, no, it's not Space Odyssey. It's funny though you say that because I really love Space 2001, but that's not it. No, this is the Planet of the Apes. So this is Dr. Zira, and I'll show you this Planet of the Apes, the old one. Planet of the Apes, Dr. Zira. It's those guys, you know, from the old Planet of the Apes movie. They were wearing this green outfit. This horror movie? Well, the chainsaw will tell you a lot, probably. But it's an old movie too, though. But they made a remakes of this recently, so it's not like you haven't seen this. So that's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Originally, it was a movie that came out in 1970 something, 74, I think, like early 70s, I think. Or was it even earlier than that? I can't remember, but you know, early 70s or so. But I think they had a remake done in a few years ago, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I haven't seen it. This girl, this woman, and she carries a little animal around. You've probably seen this. It's a classic horror. Yes, Alien. Yeah, first movie. She carries the cat around, Jonesy. And they are the only two survivors from the xenomorph. You know, she comes back and then to grab him, even though she's risking her life, which always baffled me. But you know, she wants to save the cat, so good for her. And what about him? This is more difficult, I think, because it's kind of a generic guy with a suit, so and holding a weapon, so kind of difficult to. Yeah, Alien was easy. Yeah, Scarface, well done, very well done. This was not easy, I think. I'm glad you got this one because I was dead certain that it was just a guy in a suit and no one would ever, you know, recognize him. So that's good. It's good for both of us. What about this guy? Sorry for having. Well, if anyone wants me to move on with the art, just you know, let me know. You may not want to play this game right now, but you know, figured might as well. You know, it's part of the fun to have some interaction with people here. You can play as well. You know. So this guy, it's Jack Torrance, and he's in yes, The Shining. Well, yeah, very good. You know, for a 17-year-old guy, I think, especially from Russia, I think you know a lot of movies that a lot of people twice your age don't know about. Guarantee you. So that's pretty good. Means you're curious. And not to say that Russia, you know, you don't know about films. That's not what I meant, you know. But I think you have a different culture. Like France is different too. We don't necessarily know the American movies as well, or the English movies. But so that's good for you. What about him? Yeah. So I can come back later. This is a pretty kind of scary, weird, funny franchise from the 80s, very 80s, from Clive Barker. We'll come back to him. She's not technically a movie character. I mean, she is, but she was not represented in that way in the movie. But I turned her into her classic, uh, you know, scales, bikini, red hair that she has in the comic book and in the story that Robert E. Howard wrote. That character was invented by the same guy who wrote Conan. But in the movie, she was played by Bridget Nielsen. She was blonde. She was different. Now I'm going to move on. I can tell you. This guy you probably don't know. This guy is it's kind of an obscure movie. It's a good movie though. If you manage to find it, you should watch it. It's called French Connection, and it's the story of a narcotics cop during the 1970s, and he's after that French mob guy who's bringing a lot of drugs from Marseille in France to the United States. And it's a true story actually. This guy really existed, and he really went after the drug cartels in a big way, because at the time in the 70s they had what they call the French Connection. It's a sort of a nickname they gave to that uh, to that uh, um, to that way that the cartels had to bring the drugs from France to the United States through the New York Harbor, and one of the main guys, a French guy, he was they tried to get him for a long time, and this guy was this character, he was played by Gene Hackman in the film, and he was really determined to bring down this mob guy. French Connection. It's a William Friedkin movie, and they did a second one after that, French Connection too, which was really good too. So see, and he has this iconic little hat. But you probably know the actor. He's very famous, played in a bunch of movies. He was Lex Luthor in the old Superman. So, and he always has this, trench coat and the little hat. So that's the guy. Her, she's a dancer, and she was in a famous dancing movies from the 80s. Kind of a really cheesy movie, but people loved it and remember it, especially for the song. It was a Georgia Motors song, if I remember well, and it was famous for that. The song was on air all the time, and people went crazy that summer about that song. A couple of songs in that film, and that's from Flashdance. Oh, Flashdance, I think it's 1980 something. I can't remember. You know that guy. Definitely know the guy. It's in the 90s. Yes, Girl with Girl from Terminator. Yes, Sarah Connor from Terminator 2. When she's in the desert, she's about to go and try and take down the guy from Cyberdyne Systems, the engineer, because she knows that he's going to be responsible of everything. Yes, RoboCop, definitely easy. This is not even. I mean, this is too easy, I think, for everyone. This is from my favorite movie of all time, by the way. Yeah, Raiders of the Lost Ark. The first one for me is still my favorite movie. It's really the film that made me love movies in general. I was quite young at the time, and I remember being completely like it really turned my head around. I couldn't even believe what I had just watched. It was amazing. This guy is from a horror movie too, from the 80s too. Lots of characters from the 80s, because it's kind of my time when I was young, when I was your age, or even younger than you are now. You probably know this guy. I'm not sure you could recognize him, and actually a lot of people can, because yeah, the Doctor, he's from Reanimator. It's a very fun movie. It's kind of scary fun. It's a Stuart Gordon movie. He did a bunch of movies like this, really crazy. 1985, and it's this guy who injects this green radioactive whatever compound, or serum into people that are dead, and then he reanimates them. So it's kind of gory and stupid, but it's good fun. Reanimator. If you like the gore and kind of the silly gore movies, it's definitely one that you should watch. And he did another one, Stuart Gordon, that I really like, called From Beyond, and it's about the same time, 1986. And you can see, look at the pictures, crazy stuff. A bit like very much kind of like crazy props and crazy makeup job that they did in the 80s, like The Thing from John Carpenter, you know. So he did that as well. That's good fun. Reanimator, yeah, definitely, yeah. I think you'll have a lot of fun. You'll have a lot of fun. It's Reanimator, Stuart Gordon. It's easy to remember. You can whisper me afterward, and if you don't remember some of the films and you're interested, I'll whisper you back the titles and the links if you want. Yeah, Freddy Krueger. Yeah, Freddy Krueger. This is also quite, yeah, Halloween. Mike Myers. And this is hard. This is very hard because even honestly, I love the film, but I don't think this guy is very. He's not iconic in the film. You know, he's a good character, but he's not. It's not like he has an outfit that people can recognize or whatnot. The only telltale sign is that he's holding a flamethrower that they use quite a lot. So this is from The Thing, from John Carpenter. I just spoke about it. The Thing. It's 1982, and this is my favorite film by John Carpenter. John Carpenter did a lot of movies like with Kurt Russell. So Kurt Russell, you know this guy. He's Snake Plissken in, and you see the same kind of crazy horror, like monsters and stuff. They did a remake recently, but it's not nearly as good as the old one. So this is the kind of stuff that you see in John Carpenter's The Thing. If you're into horror and gore and crazy monsters, this is definitely a must-see. And it's basically, the story is those guys are trapped. They're in a research station. See, he's got the flamethrower. That here you can see a little bit of the tank where the fuel is in, and that's what I did there. And so this guy is an helicopter pilot, and he's the pilot from a mission. They're in Antarctica. In a very solitary base, you know, and they study, they're researchers, and they stumble upon a spaceship that's been buried there for, like, you know, thousands of years. And a previous expedition, Norwegian guys from another base, they sort of they blew up the ice, and they got a creature from it, which was, you know, there in the ice for thousands of years. And the creature melted down and came back to life and started to cause a lot of mess. And then they found the Norwegians. Everyone's dead. But what do? Obviously, they bring back the freaking creature on their base, and chaos ensues again. So, very fun movie. It's definitely more serious and a bit more scary than Reanimator. It's different tone. It's way more. It's way more serious. It's a little bit like Alien. You know, if you like Alien, you're gonna love The Thing. You're gonna love it. This is the same spirit. So highly recommended. Best John Carpenter movie, hands down for me. The Thing, 1982. See, he's got the scene. He's got the dynamite strapped onto him and the flamethrower, and he's onto this thing. Kurt Russell is awesome in it. So I really recommend this. And what I was gonna say about The Thing. It's a remake of an old movie too, which was also very good, like a black and white movie. So very, very much like an old movie, slow paced, and you probably won't like it. But this movie, I'm sure you're gonna like. Those guys are not from movies. They're in the game that I want to make. I want to have like generic alien, you know, type characters that you fight, with the help of all the movie characters, you know, that you can join your party, sort of. So that's kind of the idea of having all those crazy combinations of and synergies of different characters that have nothing to do with each other. fighting all the same menace that would be this alien guys. And then finally we have I talked about this Conan, and this you may know actually. You may know this guy. Not sure. It's also a movie from the 80s, and it was done by the same director that did Alien. So you may know this guy. And if you don't, I'll tell you. No, it's this guy is called Darkness. So this is really a good movie for you to watch, I think too. It's called Legend. It's 1986 too, I think. Let's see. Oops. So, if anything, you have to watch this 1985 Legend. And so yeah, if anything, you have to watch this movie for a few scenes like this one. I mean, check this frame. I mean, come on, look at this. This giant. That's a girl. That's a princess here. She's unconscious. She's been, abducted by Darkness. That's his name. He's called Darkness in the film. But look at this guy. He just stepped out of a giant mirror coming from another dimension in this crazy sort of underground, weird sort of evil palace or something that he owns. And he wants to make her his queen, and he's got the big horns, and it's just a very impressive movie from a visual standpoint. If you want to be in awe with some frames like this one, then you ought to watch this. Definitely, I really recommend this a lot. There's some cheesy parts. The Tom Cruise is in it. In a weird way, but so there's definitely some cheesy parts to it. That are a little bit, I mean, there's a love story that's definitely a bit cheesy and all that stuff, like the princess thing. But the whole part in underground where they fight Darkness and everything is great. It's really worth watching. So I think if you can find this film somewhere where you are, then you should watch it. It's called Legend. It's very easy to remember. So that's it. We've done the whole everything, right? So this was Red Sonja, and this was from Hellraiser. Pinhead, the guy with all the little pins in his head. And then you find the box and you solve the puzzle, and then those guys, the Cenobites, they come from hell into our world and all that stuff. That's him. This was Flashdance, and yeah, I think we've done everything. So good for you. You found quite a few. I'm impressed. Well done. And now it's what, 11:40 for me. I've been streaming for 3 hours and I'm not nearly done with this guy. Jeez. And I'm sick on top of that, so can you imagine? But it's cool. I'm glad that we got to chat with you, Executed. It's always good to have someone in the chat talking a little bit, and helps me feel less alone doing my thing. I mean, I think I'm not far off from being done, honestly. I think I'm quite close now. I'm not sure I wanted to push this too much anymore. I think we'll could unify the palette a little more, but I think next character that I'm gonna make for, you mean on stream? I don't know. I have a list of like I said, about 120 characters that I want to make. But I kind of decide almost last minute, depending on the mood at the moment. I thought of doing Rambo today because I was like, I don't know, I felt like doing Rambo. I like Rambo. Um, so um, so I'm not sure. I don't always make characters. Sometimes I will make them because I'm gonna have those environments. So those characters, they roam around the world and try to fight this alien menace and whatever. And so they come into these different places, mountains and rivers, and you know. A shack, a forest, and a barn, and a building, and a gas station, hospital. So it's almost like this roguelike survival. Instead of having different rooms of the dungeons, it's different places that they travel to. So sometimes I make those little environment tiles. Sometimes I'll make famous vehicles too from movies, like the DeLorean from Back to the Future, and the Beetle, and then Christine. And also want to have items that are famous in a game like this. The old classic Mac, or this is from E.T. It's the Speak and Spell. So I'm not always making this systematically characters, but characters is definitely one of the big things for the stream. So I'm not sure. I'll have to look at my list and tell you. If you have a character in mind that you would like me to do, it may very well be on my list, so I can make it if you want for next time. But you have to be there because that'll be more fun, Do you have a character in mind? And just so you know, the rule is I want characters only from the 80s, maybe early 90s, because I kind of want the game to have a vintage retro feel to it. That's why I'm doing all in pixel art. So I don't think I'm gonna make characters from movies that are very close to us. Like, not that I don't like movies that are recent, but it's just kind of a theme that I try to have. That's all. So if you can think of a character, anyone that actually here in the chat, if you guys can think of a character from the 80s or before that you like a lot and that you would like me to do, just tell me, and I'll maybe I'll make this one then, because I have a list of characters, and I'm pretty sure, there's a good chance, if it's a well-known character, there's a good chance it's already on my list, so might as well do this one if you guys want to see it. So if anyone wants to have a suggestion there, feel free, for sure. Feel free to let me know. I think I'm kind of tempted to have one more value for him in his skin. Usually I stick to 2 or 3, but in that case, I don't know. I wonder if I need one more. Maybe not, we'll see. Just for the top of the body, Almost like he's a bit he's always a bit sweaty and wet, so I wonder if that warrants an extra value. Maybe. Maybe it's worth doing. Yeah, Donnie Darko. I mean, yeah, Rabbit is great. He's such a. But again, this is maybe a little too close to recent movies, you know. So I'm not sure I want to do that. Tell you what, I'll keep that in mind. We may make an exception for him. Sure is a good suggestion. Donnie Darko is great. Very cool. Even though I understood half of it, if any, it's such a hard movie to understand. It was cool. I don't know if I want an extra value. Probably not. I don't know. See, you can see. It's very telling when I'm that indecisive. I think for now I'm probably gonna. You see, I reached that point where I think I'm going to destroy everything I've done. So it's probably the right time to call it. For now, we'll see if I can finish this tomorrow, maybe, and then I'll post it on Instagram, you know, and Twitter. So, kind of like the idea of just suggesting that it's not perfect. It's got a few scars or a few areas that are catch light a little weird, you know, but I don't know if I can really get this to work very well. It's just a mess, I think. We'll see. See if it's worth doing or not. I think I'll know tomorrow what I should do with this. I kind of want to suggest, because he's got this gnarly muscles, you know, he's got a lot of stuff going on with the veins, and so I'd like to convey some of that, but it's hard not to avoid not to become like a complete mess, you know. I think it's just becoming too complicated overall. Yeah, I'm gonna get rid of that for now. Gee, I think one thing I could do is go a little lighter on this value. That may be just what I need. Just a bit more contrast. Yeah, I think this would help. Too much now. Yeah, this definitely better, I think. Bob, oh yeah. Okay. Sorry, as not reading the. Okay, so two things. Pulp Fiction, definitely. I think we could afford to go to the 90s for this. The Big Lebowski, absolutely. Sons of the Lambs, Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump, yes too. So I'll tell you what. I think. What should we do? I kind of want to do the Big Lebowski. You know, I think that's a. I love this movie. It's so fun. Let's make the Big Lebowski next time. How about that? I think it's a very good one. And no, it's not the 80s, and I know I just said the 80s, but it's still in the spirit. Big Lebowski. What's the 98? Whatever. Well, you know what? We'll make the Big Lebowski. It'll be fun. Doesn't have to be always for the game anyway. And Forrest Gump is actually, what is it? Forrest Gump, is it late 80s? I think. Oh, 94 too. Wow, crazy. I would have sworn that this guy was. Or maybe I'll make Forrest Gump. But then Forrest Gump, the question is, what's the classic outfit? Is this the scene on the bench? It's just a guy in a suit, you know, with a blue shirt. Or is it, because he's got so many personas, that was the whole point of the movie, you know, he's the military guy, and then he's the ping pong player, and then a runner, and so what, you know, we have to choose. I think that has to be this, because it's kind of the default one he goes back to, right? And the bench scene is such a classic that we'll probably make this. We could even make the bench with it. That would be fun, you know. Why not? So I think we'll go Forrest Gump or Big Lebowski, but probably more Forrest Gump. Yeah. Okay. I'll write this down. Thanks for that. Yeah. So, and you know the minimalistic style. So here's the interesting thing, to tell you the whole background, and after that I think I'll just close the stream probably. But so when and everyone who's there, feel free to jam in and tell me what you think about that, because I'm still debating everything and I'm getting a little frustrated with that. So when I started off, I was thinking of making this game where oh yeah, when he's a kid, yeah, why not? Yeah, and I don't have many kids, so that could be fun. Why not? Yeah. Huh. So when I started this idea of game, I wanted to make all those, you know, this basically almost like a survival roguelike game, but with plenty of characters that are, you know, come from different movies, and, you know, parodies, obviously not the right copyrighted characters, but sort of parodies of those characters that people would be like, oh, I know this guy, you know. And then the fun thing would be like, there would be no limit as to how many people you would be able to have in your team, as long as you manage to make them work together. And obviously they don't really like each other, because you can imagine what happens if Sarah Connor is in the same team as the Terminator and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of like the premise of the. Yeah, so yeah, execute, you know, and that's totally valid, because I think the minimalistic style is it may be more timeless, you know. It's more of a style, definitely, and that's why I did this, because there was two reasons. First is I wanted to see how small I could make a character, and and yet being still recognizable as someone that you've seen in a film. So that was the main idea. And also I figured if I'm gonna make 100 something characters, there's no way I can make them really big and intricate and then animate them. Even like the smallest, idle cycle will take quite a bit of time with characters at that size. So I figured this is probably the way to go, and this is a very stylistic approach, but at least it's something. It's something that people will recognize. But then I started second guessing myself and doubting a lot, and wondering, like, I don't know, is this something that people will like? Probably not. I mean, it's too simple, and people will like, what is this? So I started second guessing, and then I ended up doing an experiment and making a character like Indiana Jones, a much bigger size. And I did a couple more, and then 3, 4, and then I went on Instagram. There was not a lot of people there for me, but on Instagram and Reddit, and I asked. I had 3 sizes. One size was this, one size was the small, and in between. And I asked the people, and pretty much it ended up 50-50 between this size and the smallest size. And so I kind of debated it for a while, and I said, well, I think I'm gonna go for the biggest size, because I feel like in the end the smaller size will be too abstract for a lot of people, and I think that might be a problem. But then the more I'm doing this, the more I'm questioning it again. And actually, the fact that you're saying that you really like the super small style makes me doubt even more, because you're not the first one who came back and said, you know what, I think you're making a mistake, you should go for the smallest guy, because at least it's a statement, it's recognizable, it's gonna be a new thing, not new, but a little bit different. This is more like your generic sort of character that Capcom or whatever could do, and I'm not saying this in a disparaging way. I love all the stuff from that Capcom did, like for Street Fighter 3 or that sort of stuff. But is it the way to go? Maybe not. But here's the problem with the small size. There are some real issues with some characters are just plain hard to make. Like in any, like I just can't make. Your characters are going to be very, very difficult to recognize. Like much more than and at that size, I have a lot more luxury to make something that I know pretty much every time people are going to recognize. So there's other challenges with this one, but there's also advantages. Like I said, I can do a quick idle, for them if I want, and then a couple of like a strike animation or a dodge animation, one more frame. That's okay, it's not too big of a deal. Even one frame of these guys, like if you know Darkest Dungeon, when the characters attack or dodge, it's just one more frame, and they play with the zoom on the camera, and that's cool. It works, Yeah, Domina. There you go. Thank you for that. Domina, definitely a game that I love, and I love that style. And that's the other reason why also I decided not to go for this, because I felt like, well, there's Domina, and there's the EP Sword and Sorcery from the Super Brothers guys, who really introduced that sort of skinny leg style. So am I okay to, like, am I too late on that? I figured it's a question. Are people gonna think, oh man, this guy he just ripped off the Super Brother guys, and he ripped off Domina. Maybe not. I don't know. So I felt a bit uncomfortable, because to tell you the truth, when I started doing this, I didn't think for 1 second about it. It's weird about Super Brothers or Sword and Sorcery, even though I had played that game. It's weird, and I remember loving it. But when I did this, it was very genuine sort of intention. It was my idea of making them as small as possible, and then just naturally, because the size is what it is, then it turned into looking like Domina and looking like the Super Brother guy. So then I was like, dude, oh god, what did I do? Am I too close now for comfort? So that's one of the reasons that kind of made me question if I needed to go, bigger. But I'm not too sure anymore. So it's a tricky proposition for sure. So if anyone has some interesting ideas about that, if you would you guys like to play again with these little small characters, or would you rather have those bigger ones? And let me know, because the more I get, I think it's at a point where I think I could go both ways, and I like both ways. But obviously, if no one's gonna like something that I make, then it's kind of a shame, because for me, if I was dead set on one or the other, I would go for it, and I wouldn't worry about what people think, because that's what I would like to do. But the fact of the matter is that I'm 50-50 right now. So if I'm not gonna like one way or the other a lot more, then might as well go for the style that has the most chances of pleasing people, because I'm also making a game for people to play in the end. So if someone has insight on this, if you want to whisper me, if you don't want to chat, if you don't want to talk on the chat, I get it. But you can whisper me, or you can send me a message on Twitter or whatever, and tell me, hey, I like this or I like that better, or whatever. I think it would be cool for me to know, for sure. In the meantime, it's fine, because I'm still making characters. So I have a version of the game, but I'm gonna need to prototype this in Unity, and I'm gonna start very soon, actually. But it's hard for me to explain the whole thing without giving away some of the mechanics that I have in mind. But basically, there is a version of the game where I actually have both sizes. And roughly what that means is the field where you play, where you see the characters, fighting or whatnot. Imagine like Darkest Dungeon. It would be the small size. It would be those guys. That would be your, and this size would be more for like your sort of static portrait or whatever. Something more like your character sheet, or stats window or whatever. Yes, so yeah, something like that, in Julian, something like that. Not necessarily dialogue, but definitely two different usages of the different sizes, which then means that I have got now twice as much work because I need to make at least one big guy for every character, and a small character, and a couple of frames of animation. So I don't know. Is the way to go, knowing that I already I'm in way over my head in amount of work. I don't know, but God knows, I don't know. Yeah, that's not there's no ideal solution for now, and I wish I could find the ideal solution, but I don't have it. So regardless, I'll do whatever it takes to make it as good as I can. So if it means making two sizes, I'll make two sizes, and I'll cut down on the number of characters. Instead of having 100 and something, I'll have maybe 70, or to start with. Why not? It's good enough. I think it's better to cut in scope than in quality for me. I'd rather have less characters, but a game that is more polished, feels more polished, is more interesting in every aspect, than a game that feels a little rushed and weird and has a ton of characters. So I think I'll sacrifice scope if I have to. So yeah, we'll see how this pans out. In the meantime, I'm still gonna keep working on this size because I have the feeling that I'm gonna find a use for that size. If anything, like Julien suggested, for a portrait, you know, and that could be cool, you know, because then all of a sudden you can imagine a little, you know, little dialogue box, and you're like, hey, you know, they drew first blood, not me, you know. That could be fun. At that size, maybe not, you know, maybe a bit weird. Can't blow them out too much, those guys. Good at a certain size, but if I'm making, where's this damn Rambo? Where are you? Yeah, there. If I go here, you know, talking to Sheriff Diesel, hey, what do you push me? Didn't do anything to you. I mean, I don't know. It's a little bit weird. It's a bit like it becomes really abstract at that point. So maybe there's a version of the game where we use both. You know, who knows? Anyway, I feel like I've talked so much. You guys must be like, this guy just can't shut up. But anyway, it was good fun. I'm not quite done with John J. Rambo, but we'll get him done tomorrow or maybe on the Friday stream. Even though Friday we need to make Forrest Gump now, according to Execute, so we'll do that. But in the meantime, I think I'm gonna close it now. You see, I was sick and now I feel perfectly fine. 3 hours and 37 minutes, almost my longest stream ever, when I thought I was gonna make an abridged version of the stream, and then thanks to Execute and Julien and all of you guys who were there, I stuck to it, so that's definitely very helpful to me to have a bit of an audience there, just encouraging me in pushing through. So thank you very much. Thank you guys. Appreciate everyone who's been there, even for a few minutes. That's definitely very helpful. Hit that follow button if you think that you want to see me again, because that will give you, and then when you hit that follow button, Julian, so that's the part I figured out. There is a short amount of time where you can the Twitch asks you the question, do you want alerts when that person will be live? And then by default it's off, I think, and then they'll let you a few seconds to decide. You can click on yes, and then you will receive an alert every time that person is online. I don't know how if you've said no, I don't know how you go back and change this later. I'm sure there's a way, but I think that's so far that's the only thing I know about alerts. What else? Yeah, so thanks everyone. I'll see you back on Friday now at 8:30, just the usual time. I'll stream 3 times a week. Follow me if you want to see me again or not, and then I'll see you guys on Friday 8:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. But if you look below the stream, you see there's a little countdown, and this countdown is reflects your own local oh, you said Execute, don't be sad. Why? This will reflect your actual time zone, so you'll always know how long it is before the next stream, regardless of your time zone. So you don't have to do the conversion, like what is it Pacific time, whatever, you know. Yeah, I mean, I'm this guy at this point. I'm pretty much done. There will be some a bit more work to do, but I need to, like I said, never rush something right away out the door, because you need to, I think it's important to take the time to just let something rest a bit, maybe a day, a night at least. Then you'll see it with fresh eyes, and you'll see if something feels weird or not, and flipped in a while. Yeah, I think so, right? So so you'll probably see him on Instagram probably tomorrow night, maybe. Yeah, probably. Okay. So thanks again, guys. Thanks Execute for the follow again. Thanks for chatting with me, and then I'll see you guys on Friday now. Thanks. Bye.